Hi everyone. So, I've been asked this a few times now, and I thought it might be a good idea to make a video about it, since it's something I know a lot of artists are curious about. And that, of course, is making money from your art. And more specifically, how to start doing commissions. I've been doing commissions for a little over 5 years now, and while I'm still on my own journey toward making art my full-time job, I'm still really grateful to be at a point where I get commissions consistently. So because of that, I thought it would be helpful to talk about how I got started, what worked for me, and how I approach pricing, and share a few extra tips along the way. Of course, everything I'm going to talk about is based on my own personal experience. None of this is set in stone, and if you have a different method that works better for you, then that's great. It's just, one possible path along many others. So anyways, let's get into it. One of the most common questions artists ask is, when is my art good enough to start charging for commissions? And honestly, it's a pretty subjective question. It really depends on the people who are seeing your work. If someone likes your art and it feels worth their money, then that's all that really matters. So try not to stress too much about reaching some imaginary skill level before you start. The most important thing is actually putting your art out there in the first place. People need to know you exist before they can commission you. Back when I first started doing commissions, my art looked like this. And like a lot of beginner artists, I didn't really have much of a social media following to back me up. But honestly, you shouldn't let that stop you. While having a following can definitely help get the word out faster, it's not the only way to start, and it's not the way that I started either. What I did instead was create a service listing on Fiverr. I compiled some of my work, used it as examples of what people could expect from me, and set up my commission options there. After that comes what is probably the hardest and maybe longest part, waiting for your first customer. If you already have a following, then this step might be a bit easier, but if you're starting from scratch, like I did, all you can really do is wait. Luckily, I was very fortunate and someone on Fiverr decided to take a chance on me. And once you get that first review, things tend to snowball from there. People trust you more once they see others have had a good experience. I stayed on Fiverr for a couple of months while slowly building up my social media presence too. And while I'm really thankful for the platform, for it, giving me a way to start, I'll be honest, for me personally, Fiverr wasn't ideal for art commissions long term. Because Fiverr is more of a general services site, it was harder to find people who really appreciated art. I felt pressured to price my work lower than I wanted, and the turnaround times were often tighter than I was comfortable with. So once I had a bit more interest and followers on Instagram, I moved my commissions to there instead. Since Instagram doesn't have a dedicated page for organizing your services, what I did was create a commission sheet, so something like this. Then I promoted that on my stories or as a post for people to see, and again, the waiting game began. But once I started getting more commissions on Instagram, I was happy because it gave me a lot more control over my art. As my art improved, I gradually raised my prices and I was able to manage my schedule more comfortably. If you already have a following on social media, you might even be able to skip the whole Fiverr step entirely and start here right away. That said, social media does come with its own pros and cons. There's no platform managing orders or payments for you, so staying organized is completely on you. You're also more exposed to potential scammers. Thankfully, I've personally only had really positive experiences with people who commission me through Instagram, but that's still something to keep in mind since there's no external protection for yours or their payments. But generally, I do have very positive experiences, and if it wasn't for this next site that I discovered, I would have probably stayed on Instagram for the foreseeable future. I'd like to shout out Cat and Chat, a YouTuber I watch, for introducing me to this next platform, which is called VGen, through her videos. VGen is an artist-focused platform specifically designed for commissions. It has a board system that makes it much easier to manage multiple commissions at once, and you can clearly list the services you offer. For example, on my VGen page, I showcase things like character illustrations, character sheets, sketches, and headshots. This makes it really easy for clients to understand what you do and what they can commission from you, and also what your pricing will look like depending on the service. And even though I started out on Fiverr, I would honestly recommend VGen to most artists if you can get access to it. From my experience, art is much more appreciated there, and the community has been incredibly supportive. So to any beginner artists on there, look to VGen to start publishing your commissions. I would, however, like to add a disclaimer that VGen is not just an open site where anybody can list their services, since they have, a strict no AI policy and real artists do their work on there. It is a bit harder to get into since you need an invite code to sell your art on the platform. But of course, don't worry, because there are multiple ways that you can get one. The website explains all these options. If you would like to check it out, I will link all these websites down in the description. But they regularly run raffles on Instagram, and also their Discord server has a lot of monthly challenges where the winners will get invite codes to be able to sell on the site. So while you may not be instantly able to set up a profile to sell on VGen, you can get an account to purchase art without any of that. And also you can work on your social media or work on your commission sheets to really know what you're doing whilst you try and get the codes. That way, when you do, then you'll have everything ready. VGen also has a shop feature where you can sell pre-made digital products like emotes, adoptables, brushes, and much more. So there are a lot of different ways that you can make money from your art on that platform. Of course, like I said, you don't really need VGen if you have a pre-established following on any social media. You could just do all of that independently. I just think that having a site that manages payments and manages your orders and has, a dedicated clientele that regularly visit it, I think helps really put you out there in ways that maybe social media might not. And of course, just to be clear, I'm not sponsored by anyone. Everything I'm sharing is purely my own experience. Although, VGen, if you somehow find this tiny art channel, then call me. But anyways, now we will move on to how I price my art. This applies to pretty much any platform, not just on VGen. Even though I did start off a bit lower on Fiverr, ideally this is kind of like the rule of thumb that you would consider when looking at your art. So I started browsing VGen's main page and looking for artists offering similar services at also a similar skill level. Setting your prices somewhere in the middle between the lowest and the highest is usually a safe bet. This also applies to anywhere else. If you're on Instagram, look for other artists who are offering commissions. On any website that you're on, kind of base yourself around the people around you. And if you're a brand new artist who is just starting out doing commissions for the first time, you could benefit from trying to price a bit lower at first, because that can help, those first customers to kind of, encourage them to give you a chance. And then as you gain experience, improve your skills, and build a more dedicated audience, you can and should raise your prices over time. And yeah, that's pretty much my commission journey so far. I still have a long way to go before art can become my full-time job. It's still something that I'm actively pursuing, and my social media isn't huge by any means, which should honestly encourage any new artists out there or already existing artists with smaller social medias. You don't really need 10,000 or more followers in order to start making money from your art. All you need is a little perseverance and dedication, and yeah, you should be able to do it just fine. But of course, I would like to say that I am incredibly grateful to the people who have consistently supported my work. Over on VGen, I've got some amazing clients who, come back for more commissions regularly. So they are one of the reasons that I am able to make money from my art. Honestly, the scariest step is always the first one. I know I was really hesitant to put myself out there when I was younger, and honestly, I still kind of am. It might get a little bit easier, but it's still a journey that you have to go through. But if you're on the fence, then take this video as a sign to just start. It might take time, but staying consistent and putting your work out there really does pay off. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. I hope this video was helpful and good luck out there.